So thank you very much. Actually, I think we've worked together for about 15, 16 years. But actually what I'm going to talk about today is much more broad around the customer experience. So really it's a kind of a little bit of a walk through our kind of journey towards what we kind of call customer kind of centricity. So actually it's not a technology or a project overview, it's just really some thoughts kind of around customer experience. The slides are available, so you haven't got to write anything down. I'll probably get bored after about 30 minutes, so we'll stop, and I would love some tough questions. When you do these sort of presentations, actually having some really awkward questions at the end are fantastic fun. So just a little bit of background about the kind of the journey and why it's kind of important. Richard Branson came a long time ago with a real simple thought that if you look after your employees, they'll look after your customers, and you look after the business results. And over the last 5.5 years, this is our story. It's the story I'm going to kind of talk about, and it is very much a journey. And over the last 5 years, our engagement index with our employees has risen by 19 points. It's sort of now at 82 points, 82%, which is actually top quartile for UK businesses. At the same time, the way we measure customer experience has gone up by about 30 points on the transactional relationship level. And at the same time, the share price of Virgin Media has gone up from about $5 to, I think, about just 53 when we were bought out at the end of June, which is close to a £20 billion change in shareholder value. So when we come on to this thought about, do you deliver great experiences for customers and does it pay back? Then I think these three simple stats suggest that you can connect delighted employees, delighted customers to great business results. And the reason why you can do that is if you deliver a superior customer experience, you change the economic behaviour of your customers across 4 things. And actually, when you talk about business cases and everything, or loyalty, etc., it boils down to 4 simple economic behaviours. Can you get your customers to stay longer? Can you get your customers to spend more? Will your customers tell their friends how great you are and they join you? And actually, will they cost less to serve? So the journey we're going to show and talk through is really that kind of journey. Just a little bit of background about Virgin Media. We're the largest Virgin brand in the UK. I'll talk you through kind of where we are in terms of our kind of journey on the next slide. We've recently been brought out by Liberty Global, so we're now part of the largest broadband provider in the world. Obviously, you probably know the brand, but it's broadband, TV, mobile, and pay TV. But there's 5 interesting things that actually will help you understand our journey and put it into context. The first thing about Virgin Media is we're a high-volume transactional business. We will interact with our customers over 40 million times this year, whether it be on the phone, whether it be in retail premises. 2 million times our engineers will come into a customer's home. So the transactional nature of our customer experience, it's always going to be important. The second thing is we're a monthly subscription business. Now, the reason why that's important is if a customer tells us something today, then we can see exactly what they do tomorrow. So we deliver a great experience today and they say it's great, then I can see whether they stay with us. I can see if they phone. I can see how much money they're saying. So all the economics around customer experience for a business that actually is a monthly subscription business is relatively easy to prove. 3 reasons why we think we're different. The first reason is we have the best network in the UK. It delivers the fastest and most reliable broadband. It's a tangible benefit. And really, really important when you're talking about building a customer experience is to understand what you do great. And we have a physical, tangible benefit around which we can build the customer experience, which is pretty important. The second thing is we have an absolutely fantastic brand. And then the third thing is we have absolutely wonderful people. Now, there's no CEO who's ever going to stand on any platform and say they haven't got great people, but actually ours believes it. And the difference, therefore, is over time, we've built an experience that brings together the network, the brand, and our people. And hopefully that will come through in terms of the journey. The journey is quite an interesting journey. We started off, Virgin Media actually came to February the 7th, 2008. We three organisations came together. One was called NTL, one was called Teddy West, and one was called Virgin Mobile. NTL had the worst service reputation in the UK. And if you describe our journey so far, we kind of talk about going from truly, truly awful to where we are now, which is mediocre. We are fortunate, though, in that our industry is mediocre. So what really matters is where you are within that competitive set. 2008, we were bottom quartile. 2011, we'd managed to get ourselves onto the podium. And by the end of 2014, we intend to be number one for customer experience within the UK. Interestingly enough, 3 sets of benchmarking over the last month have actually said we're there already, but hey, they're wrong. I think it actually is. There's not a big enough difference, but we're doing well on our kind of journey versus our kind of competitors. And I'm quite lucky because every single day, 22,000 employees in the Virgin Media switch on their computer. A message comes up and it tells them that our mission as a business is to be number one for customer experience. So every single person in our business is on this journey with us and knows the destination. We are on a journey that every single company that wants to transform itself around the customer experience goes on. I talk to loads and loads of organisations, and although it's really interesting talking to organisations like Disney, who are great and stay great, sometimes it's quite good fun to talk to organisations like us who start horrible and start to kind of improve. Because every organisation that starts horrible goes through 4 phases. And I've never met any organisation in the world that hasn't gone through 4 stages of transformation. The first thing is to fix the dumb things you're doing to your customers right now. You know, asking them to pay for a phone call to tell you your product doesn't work is not a great experience. And loads of organisations do really, really stupid things. And actually, if you cut out those stupid things, you tend to reduce the cost to serve. Because the cost of failure in terms of repeat phone calls, repeat truck rolls, etc., is bloody expensive. What do they go on to next? Well, they next go on to deliver the basic things really well. We call this phase simply brilliant, but they tend to deliver the basics around customer experience, first contact resolution, etc., consistently well. And if they do that, organisations seem to get a benefit from reduced churn. The third thing, and this is the phase we're in at the moment, the third thing they start to do is to differentiate themselves. Teach customers to value most what they do best. And I'll start to show you how we're trying to bring alive that network, that people and that brand that makes a difference in our customers' digital lives. And so we'll give you some kind of examples kind of around there. Now the customer experience movement then splits in half, because I think the differentiate stage is where you can start to drive the revenue per customer up, and that's where you get the benefit. And a lot of organisations think, and there's loads of articles at the moment, you get to that point and stop, because actually you're doing pretty damn well. Some people think you should go on to delight customers. So what I'll come on to is what we think around about delight, because it's a phase that we're about to start. But I actually do believe that organisations need to go on to delight customers, because then they'll love you so much that not only do they stay forever with you, but they tell their mates to join you. So we'll kind of go on to that, but there's very clear split in the customer experience movement about whether it pays to delight or not. Let me give you a little bit of background about the way we run our customer experience program and our kind of basic philosophy. Customer experience is the simplest. I'm so good at it after working in technology, etc. Because customer experience is dead simple. Only 2 things you need to do. Step 1, listen to customers. Step 2, do something with what they tell you. That's it. I can remember that, so I'm actually okay. But every single great organisation around customer experience are fantastic at step 2, what they do with the customer feedback. We use Net Promoter as our way of actually collecting customer feedback, which effectively says, would you recommend us? And I'll explain why we kind of do that. Since we launched the programme in 2008, we've now collected 5 million bits of individual customer feedback. There's 3,000 times today somebody we're looking at customer feedback from yesterday about what they felt about Virgin Media. So it's an operating discipline. But customer experience data is not market research. Our way of getting this information through to our employees to act upon it, our operating discipline around Net Promoter, is this simple little circle here. Well, I say it's ours, actually, it's Amazon's, but I nicked it. Amazon have a 7-step process called Skyline that we kind of fell upon. I put it in a circle to begin with, but it still was so obviously Amazon's that I changed a few of the words. But really, all you need to do is to continuously collect customer feedback. It's an operating discipline. It's the same as a business process. Drive it into the organisation. Interpret it close to the customer. Customer experience data makes no damn sense whatsoever when you read it in an office. You've got to get out and see what really the touch point is saying. And I'll give you kind of an example on that. Was when we launched this programme, the single most important thing to you if you installed Virgin Media's services is that when we turn up is that they work. And our internal processes said that we used to do that at 97% of time. We're bloody good. When we started to collect real customer feedback, our customers were saying that we were doing it in less than half the time. So a 40-point difference between our view of the experience and the customers. And then you go into the home and you look at it. Our definition of working services was the broadband modem's blue lights were flashing blue. The customer's view of where they're working service is where they can get Google in the bedroom. So there's massive difference between the way organisations call KPIs that they say is measuring the customer experience and the customer's view. And I can guarantee that almost every single one of our business KPIs that were called customer experience metrics were measuring internal processes and not the customer's view of the experience. And that's a really kind of key one. In terms of what we measure, and I won't go through this in particular detail, but we use Net Promoter. As I said, if you're not familiar with it, it's basically trying to actually just ask customer a very simple question. Would you recommend us and why? And the important bit is to understand why we think it's a good metric. It's because it's got 9 qualities. The first thing is it's simple. Even our chief executive can understand it. Oh. Secondly, it's universal. We can ask questions about every single part of the experience, whether it be our transactions across our 4 transactional journeys or more at the relationship level. We think it's pretty immediate. We think it's continuous. You can't change an organisation around the customer's experience if once a quarter you're looking at a PowerPoint slide. We think it's personal. We try and give every single person in our organisation feedback about their performance. If you're a call centre agent, you get performance directly from the customer about you. If you're billing, you actually get feedback about the bill from all our customers. If you're the chief executive, you're getting feedback overall at the relationship level. And nobody changes behaviour on the back of averages or on the back of broad kind of feedback. We think it polarises. Would you recommend us? What we're looking for is people who say you're fantastic and this delights me, this infuriates me. Because again, actually, boring averages don't actually help people change. Whereas actually finding out what delights and what infuriates does. And we actually think, and I'll show this later on, that it links to growth. The last thing, which is so important when you talk about a kind of an engagement piece, is everyone loves this quote. Actually, if you haven't spotted the quote yet, I'll just give you time. I can't wait for my contract to expire because I find being a Virgin Media customer to be more painful than having my testicles removed by an airplane propeller. Isn't that great? We've collected 5 million bits of customer feedback and we've made all 5 million of them available to 100% of our employees. Because when you get a bit of feedback like that, you feel like doing something to change it. When you get a PowerPoint slide or an Excel spreadsheet or a number, it's an Excel spreadsheet or a number. People want to find out, what have we done to make that customer feel that way? So that emotional connection with customers about what the experience really feels like is so important. And in fact, all we're doing for this programme is connecting our employees' lives with our customers' lives. Let them see what it feels like to be a customer. It's the idea of focusing from the customer rather than on the customer. It's about getting the business to meet the needs of the customer by that outside-in view. And actually the way you do that is actually to bring alive what the experience is. Humanize all this customer experience data so people really understand. And we call it the unfiltered voice of the customer because Net Promoter say, would you recommend us? Why? It's what somebody would tell you in a pub tonight about why they would recommend or wouldn't recommend an organisation. And that's what you want to get to. Because if you think a lot of market research and data is really finding out about things that's important to the company. So if you imagine if I was lucky enough to be promoted to the Director of Catering for easyJet, the first thing I'm going to do is come and ask you all, would you like a free cup of tea on your flight? You're all going to say, yeah, of course I am. Thank you very much. I'm going to go to my board and go, 97% of our customers are going to be happier with us when they get their cup of tea. I'll implement it, and it will not make a blind bit of difference to the customer experience. Because what drives the experience for easyJet is it's reliable, it's safe, and it turns up kind of on time from A to B, and it's cheap. And actually, if I give you all a cup of tea, I've got to put the price up. So actually, by asking a question about something that's important to me, I may actually start to take away from something that you truly, truly value. Because what you want to find is what customers value, not what they say they want. And you know if they value it because it changes their behaviour across those 4 loyalty behaviours. So what do Virgin Media customers love and hate? Kind of quite interesting in terms of our kind of journey. When we started off and became a Virgin company, we tended to think that the experience was going to be built around the service experience because of the Virgin brand. If you ask somebody in a pub tonight about Virgin Media, they'll tell you they love you for these reasons. 76% of our customers tonight will say, I love Virgin Media because of the product, particularly broadband speed, broadband kind of reliability. 63% will talk about brand value for money and price. And actually only 23% will talk about service. And only 6% will actually talk about service as the sole reason for recommending and saying they love Virgin Media. So we're going to come on to sort of our journey and we've responded to this. But at the start of the journey, we would have thought spending £100 million improving the service experience was going to be critical. But actually spending £100 million improving the products was far more important to our kind of customers. So understanding where service fits in to the overall customer experience for your particular brand from your customer's point of view is quite critical. Now, service for us has the ability to destroy value, much more than it does to kind of build value. But I say I'll show you how the service, the people, the brand, and the products have kind of come together over the service that we try and deliver. But on the negative side, why do people hate Virgin Media? 60, again, the biggest one now is price and value for money, particularly over the last few years in terms of pricing, which I'll kind of touch upon. It's now 30, just under 30% will talk about service, 13% service is the sole reason why actually I'd say to somebody, do not join Virgin Media. So understanding where it fits is so important. And this is our service story that I'll kind of build upon. From a customer's point of view, when I order Virgin Media services, I want it to work and I want to enjoy my digital life. To be quite honest, I don't want to start to build a one-to-one relationship with your engineer or your customer service representative. It's the idea that no service is kind of great service. And in our join journey, for example, if you call us once, our Net Promoter Score falls by 26 points. If you call us twice or more, it's another 25 points difference. So overall, our customer experience starts to go down as soon as you need to kind of contact us. But that does not mean to say that service isn't important. And this is the difference between a customer who says we were fantastic when we served or we were horrible when we served in terms of scoring as a 10 or a 0. and the impact that has on the overall Virgin relationship if we ask them in the next 12 months. So a customer in a transactional score for us who gives us a 10 will score us plus 40 on the relationship if we ask them any time in the next 12 months, are we great and would you recommend us? They'd score us minus 79 if they said it was a horrible transactional experience. So you've got to get service in the right kind of buckets. Understand where service fits across the product, the brand, the value, but also understand if it goes wrong, how important it is to recover really, really brilliantly. And in fact, still today, 8% of my experiences, even 6 or 7 years into this program, will be truly, truly awful. Around about 40% of them will be fantastic, but we still get it wrong 8% of the kind of times. And where we're really bad is actually recovery. So if you get it wrong once with us, and we get it wrong once, we'll probably make you go and do the same thing again. And then again and again. And actually the ability for us to take you out of that kind of same bloody old business process and do a great service recovery. So next year, one of our key programs is never letting a customer kind of down twice is kind of the way it's kind of badged. What I want to do is just talk a little bit about the economics, and I'll come on particularly to the last one on the last slide. But as I said, for us, we absolutely know that the service experience that we deliver has a major, major impact on those 4 loyalty behaviours. So every single business case that we ever build will be built on the impact it has on those 4 loyalty behaviours. So just to kind of give you a feel in terms of this Net Promoter world, if we give you a horrible experience versus a great experience, you are 14.5 times more likely to churn, leave us in the next 90 days. And that varies by touch point. So if you take our fault experience on broadband, how many people like being not connected these days? Not very many. But if today, on a broadband engineering visit, we give you a horrible experience, 1 in 5 of those customers will leave us in the next 90 days. If we give you a great experience on that fault in that journey, 98.5% of those customers will still be with us in 90 days. So for us, this connection between the customer experience and whether customers stay with you is really, really powerful. So every single company around the deliver great customer experiences spend less. Most people seem to think that delivering great customer experience costs you more. Every organisation I speak to that's great in customer experience actually spend less for 2 reasons. Firstly, they've removed the cost of failure, the repeat phone calls, the repeat truck rolls, etc., etc. We spent £12 million more last year serving customers badly when they joined us than if we served them brilliantly. But the second thing they do is because they know what customers truly, truly value, they haven't got those hundreds of bloody projects that somebody thought was a good idea going on in their business. They've got the few things going on that customers truly, truly value. So organisations that are great in customer experience tend to spend less. The other thing we have learnt, and I'll talk a little bit about kind of our journey, is that the idea that customers pay for quality, spend more money with you, buy more products, or in our case, I mean, I'd like to try and see if anybody has had a decrease in their broadband prices over the last 2 or 3 years. Not many people want to put a hand up there, but we actually do find that if you deliver superior products and services, that you can price for it. So within the UK, as all the operators have actually doubled speeds and etc., on average over the last few years, I think every one of the operators have been driving up price by about 6%. So we can monetize improvements in the customer experience by moving away from being just a good old commodity organisation to one that delivers a superior broadband particularly, and we can bloody price for it, and we can actually, customers will go, this is great value because I'll pay for a quality service. And in fact, the way we've monetized our improvements in customer experience more than anything else has been on the kind of the pricing, etc. The last one I'm going to come on to on a last slide because we haven't yet proven it, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about kind of what we have and haven't proven, and that's why we're kind of in this sort of focus on delight or not. I'm going to go through just a couple of things on the service experience now. And the latest buzzword on presentations this year is everyone's got to have a killer slide. So I was hunting around for mine, and this is it. It's exciting, isn't it? God. Something we discovered about 18 months ago. And we found this to be true for every product and service experience that we deliver. And it's the idea that you really can't fix your way to being great. Because quite often it's what you don't do, rather than what you do today, that's going to really drive the experience. And this is our call centre world, where effectively, if you speak to us, you're only looking for two things. You're looking for the problem to be solved, and you're looking to be treated well, to be made to feel important, to made to feel valued, particularly through behaviours. And actually, if we do both of those, in a Net Promoter world, we get plus 50. If we do neither, in a Net Promoter world, we get minus 87. But the second category is an interesting one, because 58% of our customers said to us, you solved my problem, but actually, I don't know how I felt. It was a transaction. They didn't know they were speaking to Virgin. They didn't know that the person on the end of the phone really cared about them. And actually, when we then went to look at all our touch points, including all our products, we found that actually we weren't bringing alive the things we did and the things that we think customers valued, and actually help people understand that we did it. So we moved on to design and experiences. And I'll go through this bit a little bit fast. But effectively, what we've done over the last 18 months is a program called Voice of the Brand. We've co-created with customers every single one of our experiences. Get them into the room, get BT's customers into the room, get Sky's customers into the room, get the stick-it pads out and start to say, what does great kind of look like? And then actually put that in a way where the people in the organisation can really understand their individual role, what's important to the customer, and what they're going to actually kind of to do about it. The second part of that, though, is to give people tangible things to do that really do drive home how important certain parts of the experience are. So it's not good enough just to create nice PowerPoint slides and posters and mugs and etc. Give people tangible things to do. So I'll give you a couple of examples. We introduced is the wrong word, Bupa Smiles, KLM Smiles, etc., acts of random kindness. If you're speaking to one of our agents today and you just tell us that you've got had a grandchild, they maybe send you a photo frame, put the first photograph kind of in there. A bit of kind of delight. We had a customer writing a grandma, 82-year-old, love Virgin Media, been with you for kind of years, made a mistake though, wanted to keep up to text and with the grandchildren, etc. Got a BlackBerry, keys too small, can't use it. Not your fault, was mine, but I still love you. The product manager who picked that up actually thought, well, actually, it probably is our fault. We didn't do anything wrong because we just processed an order, but we didn't do anything right because anybody with an ounce of sense who's an expert in here would probably understand that an 82-year-old grandma may struggle to actually press the keys on a text. So she went and found an Alcatel One phone, which is it, the biggest phone in the UK, biggest bloody keys, and sent it to us saying, we love you too. And we do about 6,000 of those a year. So that, and the important part is we're demonstrating through those stories to 22,000 employees every single day that we're actually there to delight customers. On the engineering side, an interesting one, but the engineering experience should include a text to say you're on the way because it shows you I value your time. Overshoes to say that I value your property. And at the end, take out a piece of bloody paper and say, this is what I've done. Because actually I know the most important thing for you is that I've solved the problem that I can do. So let me demonstrate to you. It's also sometimes important that you don't give customers choice. Because if I ask you as an engineer, and should I put these overshoes on, love? Or are they okay? About 50% of customers will go, oh, no, don't, I'll clean up after you. But actually, the physical putting on the overshoes in front of a customer is a real tangible way to demonstrate that we value their property. So actually, don't sometimes give customers choice if you know that that part of the experience is truly valued by your customers. Make certain it happens consistently every single time. And interestingly enough for us, and I say I'll probably just go through the next few slides very, very fast, a focus on delight has led to pretty big improvements in our kind of customer metrics in a way that potentially fixing just problems wasn't. So there's a point in these sort of programs where switching the focus to delight's really important. The next slide you can't read, but I just think it's kind of interesting, so when you take it away, because this is what a program of transformation could look like. Because this journey is quite a long journey. The fastest I've ever seen is Lego. It took them 8 years. And actually, if you think about what things, the capability of the organisation build, what it does over these different 4 phases. So at the start, we simply launched customer experience measurement and got it into the scorecards. Then we started to link it to bonuses and cost of failure, to the point now where we've got massive financial linkage between every part of the customer experience and what we do. The culture part is the single most important part of this journey. And at the start, it was effectively saying to about 2,500 people, I'm sorry, goodbye. We need to cut costs. It was then about getting customer experience into partner contracts. It was then about who we recruit. To the point now, 6 years later, our share ownership with our employees is over 30%. We have some fantastic programs kind of around how could they recommend us as a place to work and our products to their friends around our kind of people. To the point where actually now saying, everybody take some time off and go and do some work for charity, because businesses should be a force to good. So it's amazing when you look at these programs about how you go through each stage of the kind of the journey. And even on the product side, it's a matter of, say, at the start, just bloody making certain the basics work, and then 3 or 4 years into it, maybe spending £100 million doubling people's broadband speeds. So the message there is that you've got to get all parts of the organisation involved in these kind of transformations. They take time, and the list of things that you will include in your customer experience program will be enormous. 2 things that I won't go into, but I'll just remind you of before I get onto my last slide, is that the most important journey is the people journey. The customer experience transformation is really a cultural change program. It's about getting the customers right at the heart of your organisation. And actually any program that isn't got culture as a key part of it, rewarding, success, celebrating, will be damned and will fail. And I'll answer any questions on that if you like to. And then any program, as a last message before I talk about advocacy, that doesn't have your senior leadership team leading will also fail. I've never seen a customer experience program on this planet that actually, where the leadership team, who haven't been backing it all the way and leading it, has been successful. Yeah, a kind of example for us is finding your focus. So our leadership team, every single director, do a week in the business. Not a day, not answer a few phone calls, but they spend a day and a half being trained to do 1 of 3 jobs: sell mobile phones, answer phone calls, or install. We give them a buddy because we wouldn't let them do it by themselves. They then go and do that job for 3 days, and then they spend half a day in the pub going, bloody hell, that's kind of tough. But the idea of getting close to customers, close to the touch point, and really understanding what the interactions your customers have with you. And we often say once a quarter we bring 50 customers in to meet our board. 1 board member to 10 customers, and just talk. Just tell them what it's like to be a Virgin Media customer right now. Nick from Sony, by the way, if there's anyone from Sony here in the room. One interesting thought about the next stage of maybe our journey, and it's really this idea that advocacy in terms of positive word of mouth. And the reason why I say it's the next stage of our journey is we have a thought about it, we haven't done it. Because we had a great strategy around using positive word of mouth, which was deliver great experiences for customers, sit on your arse and wait for them to tell their mates, and their mates will come to you. And actually what we've learnt over the last 12 months is that switching on positive word of mouth is as much a business discipline as maybe closing the loop on a bad experience. So we're doing a bit of work at the moment, and it's based on these kind of insights. 5 years ago, 22% of the customers said that word of mouth played a critical role in them joining Virgin Media. It's now 34%. 13% say it's the single most important part. 13% also actually say that they wouldn't join us. So we know generally that word of mouth is now a critical part of the kind of path to purchase. We also know, for example, that 31% of our customers tell us they made 4 million recommendations. And these customers, and we can profile them, so 85% of our people with broadband, very fast broadband and a PVR, blah, 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 say they made 4 million recommendations. What we can't find is any time where we were involved in those bloody conversations. So what we're trying to figure out is what are the smartest organisations doing to get involved in this circle. And we think that switching on positive word of mouth is really about starting conversations off that you want to join, so publish stuff, really amplify the right sort of kind of content, engage one-to-one with people who love you, which should include current customers, people on social media, staff, people you can kind of profile, give them the tools to talk about your product around the things that you kind of stand for, including connecting them to prospects. Then actually reward both the new joiner and the purported recommendations, then start the process off again. My personal view, which is where the kind of the customer experience, say, discipline splits, is that to switch on advocacy, to activate advocacy, is a discipline that requires you to delight customers and then put real organisational capability around switching on. Said totally unproven. What we do know is that sitting on your arse waiting for it to happen by accident doesn't work. Say lots of people will also talk to you in a customer experience space and say don't invest in delighting customers. I do not think you'll switch on the fourth loyalty behaviour of that people not only will stay with you, love you forever, but tell their mates unless you actually build delight and actually a discipline kind of around it. Which kind of takes us to the last sort of stage and then any kind of question. Really, this journey is a very simple journey. It's all about really transforming our organisation to one that is very simply led by the voice of the customer. Happy to take any really, really awkward questions.
Now, there is a challenge.
There is a challenge.
There's a challenge. So,
Ooh.
who wants to go first?
Except from you.
Who wants to go first? We've got somebody taking the first go here.
Thanks, Sean. Great presentation. I'm one of your VIP customers, and a couple of months ago I hesitated as BT Sport landed on Planet, and as a rugby nut I waited to see what you guys would do, and you delighted me by giving it to me free. And so in my excitement I picked up the phone to try and tell you how delighted I was and lost the will to live as I tried to get through your IVR. Why wouldn't you make it simple for somebody to give you great feedback?
Absolutely. So you're completely right. It's been actually somebody's given me that to salt, which is the idea, can you have a feedback channel for compliments? So absolutely agree with you. If it doesn't happen, it's my personal responsibility, so nobody else's. And then the other thing we want to start to try and do is really identify people like yourself who give us that feedback through surveys, or we can kind of profile and actually practically go out to you and say, can you tell your friends about that? So you were 100% right, it's because we haven't done it.
Well, that wasn't too difficult. Let's get a difficult question at the
Bloody
back.
Bloody embarrassing, though.
Right at the back, there's two people. Okay, we'll do one and then we'll pass on to the lady in the corner.
It was a good presentation, Sean. Really enjoyed it. Just wondered, how did you work out what customers value to what they want? How did you split the massive data to say this is what they value, this is what they're just wanting?
It's a great question. We are 6 or 7 years into a program with 5 million bits of individual customer feedback. We're a telecoms operator, so we're pretty good with data. So at the start, effectively, we started to get some proof points. But by the end of it, by analysing your verbatims, I can start to see what you truly, truly value, hopefully from what you've told me. What I can then start to do is to change that and then see if it changes your economic behaviour. Because my definition of value is it changes those 4 economic behaviours. So, for example, at the start of the programme, we were used to, for our convenience, come out and repair your service within 7 days. That's great, isn't it? That's going to clearly be a real detractor driver. We brought that to 3 days within 2 or 3 years of the programme. We're now experimenting with superfast service, which is 75% of the customers getting a broadband fault restoration within same day or next morning. And I can see by doing that in my Manchester control area that says you churn less. So effectively, it's through really strong measurement of what the customer says is important, changing the KPI behind it, and then seeing if we deliver that better experience, whether it changes your economic behaviour, which in this case it does.
So how often do you survey your customers?
Once
a year? Every 6 months?
We tend to, from a control perspective, try not to survey you more than 4 times a year. But we do, on a continuous basis, after interactions, ask for feedback. So it depends on which experiences you've been through. So you could, as a Virgin Media customer, get 4 surveys a year. You're more likely to get 1 or 2.
And your completion rate on those surveys?
Actually, about 21-22%. Customers, if they think you are going to use the data, actually are willing to tell you. One of the things that really surprised us is customers are happy to give you feedback if they think it has an impact. So sometimes closing the loop, and particularly at the start, we actually, because we were awful at the start, I mean, let's not forget about it. We did a We Hear You site, which we took people through to say, this is what we're hearing really infuriates you, and this is what we're doing about. So closing the loop on the feedback and actually showing customers what you do in the data helps and encourages a response.
So if you survey them once a quarter, you really believe that they can still remember the experience 3 months?
Sorry, I will only serve you once a quarter, but actually every single day. So if you join us, the best time to ask you the question is 7 days after the experience. If you have a fault with us, the best time to ask the question is 3 days after the experience.
Good. We've got a question at the back there.
Here. Thanks for a passionate presentation. I have a question regarding MPS. How did you deploy it and delighted the level of agents and field people regarding the MPS? So
it's really interesting. It's a brilliant question because MPS.
I've got no more prizes, you know.
We'll get you a prize anyway. so MPS at the transactional level, I think, is really important to people like myself. So we have a market level net promoter, we have a relationship level net promoter, we have a transactional nature which actually gives us a view across those kind of interactions, and therefore we know the importance of it. As an individual agent, 50% of the feedback will actually be about other parts of the experience, which is kind of really critical for us to kind of know. I need to have that transactional view, so I can tell you where you fit into the overall experience and the customer's view. But it may well be that as you go through these programs and years 6 or 7, that interaction measurement is also very important. So we have put a 4th level in for our agents, which is actually about a voice of the customer program straight after the phone call. And our engineer, actually the most important thing to do is to send the customer a text to say, did we solve the problem or your service working? And on the day, if they come back and say no, the engineer who had that job goes back. So we do interaction measurement as well. Immediate for a phone call and for an engineering visit.
Sean, thank you very much. That was really great. Thank you very much.